All right, we're live. It's another edition of Vibing with PageMotor. This time it's not going to be a monolithic 4-hour romp through a bunch of prompts, okay? I've got something a little more specific cooked up. I've already done a lot of initial work, so we don't have to sit here and wait for this thing to crunch a bunch of data for us. So get right to it here. So what we're going to do today is I am working on updating the design conversion skill that we use to take an AI generated design or any existing web page, whatever, anything you want to point to, an existing design, and convert it into something PageMotor can use. It sort of can be described as converting it into a PageMotor theme. It doesn't really capture exactly what's happening. But what I want to do is have the end result look like the input design, but I also want to be able to control it using design options that already exist in PageMotor. I want, for example, I want a whole site. I don't just want a design, like if AI generates a design, you've usually got like just the homepage and that's what you get. Well, a real website consists of more than just the homepage. It's got like interior pages that need to be designed a certain way and they need to work. The content on those needs to be presented a certain way. In addition to that, when you have content, a good content management system like PageMotor has a bunch of styling classes and formatting elements available to you. And it'd be nice if your pages, could use all those and it looked great on the output and all that stuff. There's another concern. You've got an editor. When you type in your content or if you go in to edit some existing content, there is a WYSIWYG editor. It'd be nice if that design were reflected in the WYSIWYG editor. These are all like the additional things we don't really think about when we think about recreating a design. Like if we got the AI generated design and now it exists on our site and looks like that, we think, oh, we did it. But really, there's a lot more to the equation than that. A lot of stuff we don't see, a lot of stuff that would be nice if. And that's what I'm rebuilding the design conversion skill for PageMotor to do. I want to add these enhanced capabilities. I want to add a lot of nice stuff so that if things break, there's fallback conditions, that a lot of these other use cases like interior pages and whatnot, a lot of these other cases are accommodated really well. I would like for the design tool to use golden ratio typography. One thing I've noticed with a lot of these designs is they have a whole lot of arbitrary font sizing values, a whole lot of arbitrary spacing values, all that stuff. And it makes it really complicated if you ever want to go through and edit stuff, like you want to make the font bigger. Well, then you realize, oh, some of the spacing is inadequate. And then you go back through all the the files and everything and find out there's like all these little touch points that you would have to edit to get it just right. Now, I'm the only person crazy enough to probably do that stuff, but I've encountered all this and I hate it. I want it to be like more systematized, more standardized. I want things to work better right out of the box. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take a look at this thing. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see, what window are we going to share? We're going to share this one for now. Let's see this. Okay, so here's the design. I've shown you guys this before. I did this conversion from an AI generated design back in January with PageMotor 0.5. It looks great. It recreated the design exactly as Claude had it. I mean, it's like really a one-for-one thing. It's so good. And then I went through and did a little bit of enhancements because Claude did some stuff that wasn't amazing. I wanted to refine it. It looks good, but it's just a one-pager. Like the interior pages are not accommodated at all. In addition, because this was done with PageMotor 0.5, it was implemented using something we call modular content, and that is not a very good management system for running this thing long term. So I'm going to show you what that looks like because it's pretty, it's worth understanding why this is not so good. So I'm going to flip to a different window and we'll take a look at that. So let's see, I think it's this one. All right, looks like this. Let's go to manage themes here. We're going to stop previewing this theme. So we're running the revenue hire Claude theme, which is the one that's currently on that I showed you. Now, if we go into the theme settings, well, we don't need to go into theme settings. I told you it's a bunch of modular content. We're going to theme settings. We're going to go to element options. We're going to look at this. Everything in the homepage design, everything is represented by uh, a piece of modular content. So we're going to go look. I'll show you like a one-for-one sort of thing here. So here's the site. And now we flip back over to here. And like, so in the front, we had a hero content and it said like hire salespeople or something like that. So it's got a piece of modular content called hero content. So to edit that, we'd have to go in now to content, go into our modular content and find hero content. Oh, well, there it is. And now here it is. Now, if we look at this, this is the WYSIWYG editor in PageMotor. This is not styled. This is just unstyled content. I can tell that this is a headline. I can see up here that this is an H1. I've got some other stuff. These are obviously links. Got an SVG icon here. I can tell what's happening, but if I look at the source code, now we see what's really happening. This is the stuff the design needs to work. It needs to see these classes. It needs to see all that stuff so that the output actually works. This is an ugly way to do it. This source code is not prettified. It's not pretty printed. So it's not syntax highlighted in a way that I like anyways. Not at all. It's just black text. So this stinks. And if a client were to get a hold of such a thing by editing their modular content, say they want to change some copy. Well, if they change just some interior copy here, so put like a couple words here, that would work. But if they were to like delete this paragraph and then write a new one, it would butcher the class's hero subtitle. It would butcher that. It would remove it. And then they would have a chaotic results. And then if you went in to try and fix this, you would see that you'd be like, oh gosh, I don't remember what those original classes were. And then you'd have to look through the CSS or something to try and like back calculate what that might have been or reverse engineer it. So that's not pleasant at all. Not pleasant at all. Petrus, I see your question. I'll answer that in a moment after I get done with the intro here. But so that would be a poor operating state. So in PageMotor 0.6, I introduced something called HTML boxes, which are a superior way to edit and create this condition that you see here. So what we have is, we have content that lives on the website, like hire salespeople, like this headline and the text and all that stuff. We have this stuff. It'd be nice to edit it. Number one, we'd like to be able to edit this stuff easily. Okay, great. We can do that with PageMotor a variety of ways. I showed you the modular content, but I think that's not a very good way to do it. But we can also acknowledge that content like this isn't going to be edited that frequently, probably. There's certain parts of this page that might be edited more frequently than others, but this isn't like a high traffic editing area. So it doesn't have to be like the nicest, most user-facing thing of all time. It doesn't have to be just like a text box and they just enter some text and that all just magically works. It doesn't have to be that level of good. So we need a way to do it. We'd like it to be nice. Since it's HTML and since the classes and stuff are important, that's more technical. And I would like the interface to be easier to work with, like to show me the syntax highlighting and stuff so I can make sure I'm editing exactly what I need to edit. That'd be nice. And modular content, though, crucially, is not saved as part of theme data because it's content for your website. It's content data. The content is owned by your website. Theme stuff about your design is owned by the theme. If we want to use AI to generate designs, AI can deliver data. It can give some data to PageMotor and say, hey, make this the design. All that data, though, is the theme data. It's not the content data for your website. AI is not running all that. There's like a wall there between the two. So it can do one or the other. It could theoretically do both, but that'd actually be a pretty big mess, and it would be a burden for users. But PageMotor has a way. We'll go back over here. PageMotor has a way, a very simple way, for you to import theme data. And AIs can output a data file for your theme with your entire design in it, the whole thing. And if we use HTML boxes, that new construction, it's going to work better. So bottom line, I've just showed you that this current version of the Revenue Hire website uses modular content. It's done the old way. And I want to use this new design conversion skill to do it the new way. And also it's worth mentioning the last thing here, that there's no connection right now to the design between the design options and what happens out there. So like, let's say I want to change a font or change a font size or change some colors. I could put some stuff in here, but it's not going to have any effect on the design. So it would be nice if this could give me some more control over the design for rapid prototyping, future changes, whatever I might need to do. It's not essential, but it would be nice if. So that's the goal today, is to vibe code. Actually, not vibe code. We're developing a design conversion skill for PageMotor that does all the things that the first version of the skill didn't do. That it's going to make the WYSIWYG editor work. It's going to faithfully reproduce the design. It's going to reproduce it in a way that the CSS ties into what's called the PageMotor design system and makes those design options usable. We're going to make sure that it accommodates a page template. So like if you create a new page on your website, then that will just work, and a 404 template also. We would also like to set the table for future changes with landing page templates. I'll get into that at the very end. But we'd like to have all these niceties built in. Another thing, I would like it to use golden ratio typography to handle sizing and spacing wherever it can. And the main reason I want to do that is not because I just, you know, have this compulsion to use golden ratio typography. It's really because golden ratio typography is systematized and very simple. I mentioned earlier that so it doesn't have this great consistency that you would have if you were pulling your values from a system. So we want to systematize the results that come from the AIs in a better way. It's going to make them easier to work with. It's going to make them more programmable and changeable. It's just a better result. We're looking for a better class of results here. So let's get right down to it. So what I did, let me see if I can share my Claude Code window. So what I did, I was messing around with Claude Code. Let's see if this is even the right window. It is. Okay. So I had Claude Code. I sent it a whole new prompt. I developed a bunch of new documentation to have it do all the things I just talked to you about. I said, okay, well, this is all the stuff we want to achieve. Let's go ahead and, augment our current documentation that goes into the skills. Let's augment the skill itself. And let's say, okay, if this comes up, we're going to do this. And it turns out it's actually pretty complicated. I'll go back and show you exact results from the second pass. The first pass was bad enough that I had to kind of just first pass. It didn't have like all this stuff wasn't even presented properly. At least this, what you see here, is a relatively accurate representation of. Hold on, I messed it up again. What I just showed you is an accurate representation of the original design. It looks mostly. Here it is, the original with the bold text there, bolder text. And then here's the new one. We got some problems, the font's not bold, the navigation menu spacing isn't quite right. As we go down, we see that there's just some issues with the, it's just a little off. It's just a little off. Some of the text a little bit too big. There's just little things we'd like to change. And so I went through, I noticed what all those were, and I told the skill, or Claude Code, I said, all right, refactor the skill, let's do it again. And it sent me an updated version of the skill. And I have not installed it yet because I was saving that for this live stream. So here's what we're going to do. I'm currently running the theme I've been showing you on the front end, the original version. I'm going to use a different theme here so that we're going to preview it. And what the preview does is it makes it so I can see the preview theme and I can work on it and change its settings and stuff. But if you were to visit the website, you would still see the original theme, the one that I've been working on throughout this session so far. That's a really cool thing that you can do with PageMotor. That is a really nice a way to do development and to change designs and stuff like that. Visitors can still see what's currently there and that we know works. And meanwhile, you can work on this new thing to try and get it to be an even better environment. So that's cool. So let's see. It looks like Ken has answered Petra's question really well. I think Ken's probably the most experienced person to talk about this in a meaningful way. I think he has even greater experience than I do here. So we'll go with his answers on that. So anyway, we'll go back to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the theme data importer here, and I'm going to take this new text file that the skill generates. So when I ran the skill, What it does is it looks at the design, the original input design, which was revenuehire.com, and it breaks all the HTML down into all the structures that PageMotor needs. And then it also takes into account the considerations that I brought up. I said, well, if you encounter this condition, this is what we want to do. I realized the source CSS is going to be kind of all over the place. I want you to try and kind of systematize that the best you can. I've given it some parameters for how to do that. Same with the HTML. Like if there's inline CSS styling, get rid of it. Try to make the div structure as minimal as it can be. But, in these cases, do this, do that. It gets pretty granular and complicated down in it. But I've done 3 iterations of it now, and it's feeling pretty refined. So let's see how good this last attempt is and see if it gets us any closer to being like a one-to-one correspondence with the input design, but with all those enhanced features I've mentioned. So I just imported the file. It was that simple. It's done. So now if we go look at the website, which we'll do right here, we'll share this tab. I'm going to hold, and we will hopefully see some magic. There we go. Okay. We've got our headline. It's not as big as I would like. I know why, but this actually appears so far to be a faithful reproduction of the input based on the new conditions with golden ratio typography, which I'll go into in a little bit. So let's just examine this real quick. This all looks pretty good. That's looking good. I like it. I like the font sizing is pretty good. We could do a back-to-back comparison so you can see the exact differences. We got some line heights here that are too big. I can tell they didn't do the right thing there. This looks good. This pipeline looks way better. That's legit. That graphic looks cleaned up. That's really nice with that line going right through the center of them. So the design tool intuited this. The AI design conversion skill intuited that this is what the presentation was attempting to achieve. And it, made it all line up better. It made it so I put in some parameters for judgment calls. And I told it to kind of, like this presentation with these circles and the icons and this line through them. This is a graphical presentation. Now it uses a combination of HTML and CSS to create this, but the intent is clearly a graphical presentation. It is not like text on a page. It's not typography. It's not like that. And so in this case, it would have to say, hey, I don't want to use values from golden ratio typography to reproduce this. I need to use exact pixel values based on what we're trying to achieve. So it was able to intuit that as it went through the design. It says, okay, we got a case where this is a presentational format and not just like typography or whatever. And it handled that beautifully there. So I love that. That's a real good sign. Got some stuff here. AI powered looks a little funky there. It's not exact. I see these are just little tweaks. It looks pretty good overall. Let's see. We got this. It's all looking okay. CEO is maybe too close to the outside of the circle. Might need to make a couple tweaks there. Overall, looking pretty good. I think it might have actually gotten these line heights right there. I could go in and examine that. The fields look a little bit better. Got a line height issue here in the text area. It's not bad. It kept my SVG icon for the revenue hire logo. All this looks pretty good. Footer looks good. All in all, pretty good. Now let's go into the options and see how well that stuff's been integrated. Actually, before we do that, we're going to go in and look at the theme data itself to see, does it look good? Does it look bad? What do we see? So we're going to go into the theme editor here and just check it out. It's got blocks for the templates. Let's see if there's a page template. Oh, there is. It's got a content page block. Let's go look at that and see if that's filled out. Oh, this looks good. This looks really good. Wow. Okay. I can't wait to check that out. That seems to have done a pretty good job with that. We'll look at that in just a moment. Let's see. We have a 404 page template also, hopefully. We do. That looks good as well. Let's check that block just for giggles. Yep, looks great. Nice. Title and content, no author, no date on that because it's not appropriate on a 404 page. Looking pretty good. We got our HTML heads all outfitted. That's looking nice. And we've got our very interesting style sheet that's now compiled in a different way so it knows to use CSS variables from the PageMotor design system now. This is a big upgrade. This is what enables you to use the design options to influence outcomes in the design. Really, really cool. So let's see here. I don't really see anything else of note. That all looks like it's going to be pretty good. So it's using CSS custom properties in concert with uh, CSS variables from the PageMotor design system. I'm happy with that. I think it looks pretty good. Let's check the editor CSS. Did it do any of this? It did. It did. And I gave it some very loose conditions on which to operate there. So, like, I expect if there's going to be problems, glaring problems, I expect them to be here. But it's got the pieces, so it may be going to be right. Let's take a look at that. So, we're going to go in, we're going to look at some content here. I don't even know if there is content on this site. There is no page yet. We're going to create a new page. And we'll call it test. And it's not looking good here because the content's not centered. So we're going to say that's not great. Let's add a call out so we can test design features. And I gave it stuff to at least accommodate this, but it's not looking very good. So that's a note call out. Look, it did kind of do something. So whatever. We'll see how this looks. The paragraph spacing isn't right. I see lots of problems here. So, but again, this is just for the WYSIWYG editor. This is like the thing I thought was least likely to be correct from this iteration of the design tool. But we have something. So we'll save this page. We will open it in another tab. We'll share this tab instead. And we have sort of something. And it did generate an interior navigation menu. If we go to the home page, we see that this navigation menu, which also has faulty spacing, these links are only relevant to this page. They use some JavaScript to make the thing scroll, and the links are only relevant to this page. Interior pages are going to want stuff that's more applicable site-wide in their navigation menus. And so this thing already prepared for me an HTML box with a navigation menu that's suitable for interior page stuff. In fact, let's go look at what it did there, how it provisioned this. I'm just curious because I haven't, been able to inspect any of this yet. So let's see. It's going to be navigation. Maybe it's navigation content. Possibly. We'll have to look. I have to look at the template. Page template. It says navigation. What's the home template? Home template is just header. So navigation is strictly for the page. So it's navigation content. We're going to go into theme settings. We're going to set element options. Now we're going to find navigation content. There it is. So it puts the logo up in here. It conflated some stuff. So like I don't love it. It conflated or combined is probably a more accurate term. It combined the logo with the menu. Like I would like for that HTML block just to be the menu. And I gave it some instructions about how to separate items. Like, don't put two things together that are, maybe displayed separately and like clearly, obviously different entities. As humans, we look at something like this. It's really easy for us to tell like, oh, this is that. It should be like this. It's much harder to get the machines to do that kind of thing accurately. And so this is a challenge. It's a design challenge for this design conversion skill tool. And, I haven't nailed that down yet. Obviously, got some work to do there. It is going to be possible, but, it didn't handle it perfectly yet. So the menu's right here. It did not. It did all the proper indentation up here in the SVG logo, and then it just gave up here. Didn't indent this properly. Like that stinks. Come on. It should have been like this, like a proper list output. So I'll have to go back through, another round of changes. I'll actually do that here during the stream probably. So we'll just keep track of that. So I don't love the content separation on the nav. It could have been better. Editor wasn't accommodated properly, but I need to look at why. Like I'm going to have to give the tool or the skill better information about how to navigate that, since we don't like that. But all in all, not a bad result. We've got some stuff to work with here. It's better than it was before. It's better than nothing. Let's check those design options now. So I'm going to go back here. We're going to go back into the theme. We're going to set some design options. So when you first run the skill, let's say you generated an AI design in Claude and then imported it over. If that design that Claude generated used Google fonts, and at this point it almost certainly does, when you first import it and go look at your site, it's not going to show the Google fonts. So like this would just be like some system font or something boring. But when you run the design skill now, Claude Code comes back and tells you, hey, here's your design. Here's the file you're going to need to import. Now here's the steps you need to take to make sure it's all going to look right. It tells you a couple things. It says, hey, go into the design options and set your fonts. And here's the fonts to set. And so it will literally say, now I closed the window earlier. I had some problems with my setup and had to close it, but I was going to show you the output that it says. But it says, hey, go into your design options, set your primary font to DM Sans, set your secondary font to Francis, and then, set your font size to 16, set your background colors to this, set your text and link colors to that, your accent color to this, links, all that stuff, do that stuff. And then content width 700, total layout width 1200. It told me to do all this. Great. It even told me to set my footer colors. It didn't tell me anything else. But, that's some instruction right out of the gate to make sure that the implementation is faithful to the input design, and that the more difficult pieces of the puzzle technically, such as incorporating Google fonts that you don't have on your site previously, it makes all that really easy. So that part of the deal is really cool. Eventually the skill, so like the Francis font is not included with PageMotor by default. It doesn't have the 400 italic and bold faces necessary to qualify. So that's something you have to come in and add after the fact. You can use something in PageMotor. Let's flip to this tab. PageMotor Architect AI. You could say, hey, create me a plugin that to add the Francis Google font to my site. And it'll just do it. It'll do it. It'll take like 20 seconds. It'll create you the plugin. You go into manage plugins, and then you would activate the Francis font plugin that it just created. And boom, next time you go back into your design options, hit the wrong link there. Next time you go into design options, it's going to have Francis font selectable in the drop-down list, and you'd be able to integrate it that easily. It's worth showing exactly why that's so beneficial. So let's do that real quick. So we're going to look at the source code here. Over here in the source code, if you are going to include Google fonts in the most performant manner, you're going to need to do a few things. You're going to need to prefetch. That's Google Tag Manager. You're going to prefetch or pre-connect to fonts.gstatic.com. You're going to preload the style sheet for the font as a style. And I've got 2 fonts here, so I have 2 of those. And then you incorporate the fonts themselves, but crucially, they must be incorporated before your main style sheet that attempts to call those fonts or use them. All this stuff is something you would have to do. Like if you're working on WordPress, you'd have to do all this. You would have to make sure all that stuff was in the right place. You'd have to make sure it was all implemented. So like if you're going to have AI generated design and then try to get it to work on WordPress and it uses these extra fonts, you would have to engage in additional steps that are very technical to make all that work. With PageMotor, you don't have to do that. It's just going to work. So that is a super nice benefit. You've got, not only does it just work, you've got these extreme performance optimizations, like as good as you can do it, already baked into the cake. It just happens for you. You never even have to think about it. And if you step back from the situation, you realize that this is the way it should be. We know we're going to want to include things like Google fonts in our sites. We know that when we do that, we need to take these extra steps to get the best performance and to do, hit the web standards, tick all the boxes, score 100% on the test. We're going to have to do this. Any good system's just going to do that for you. That's what PageMotor does. So I'm going to take a quick break and read some of these comments here and just catch up. Yeah, so Petra says he comes from a WordPress background. He's tired of plugins, updates, crashing. And I really think the deal there is there's just all this crosstalk between all these different entities that exist on a website. And PageMotor doesn't solve the problem in the sense that it makes it so you're not going to have plugins. You're going to have plugins, and plugins are going to need to kind of work in the same environment. But the nature of PageMotor plugins is such that there's not really going to be any problems. They're really, really simple compared to WordPress plugins. WordPress plugins are like a completely open landscape where you can go any direction you want. But it's like an undeveloped landscape. It's like being plopped out in the wilderness somewhere. And it's like, okay, go wherever you want from here. You know, you don't have any water, you don't have any shoes, there's no roads paved, you have no car, you have nothing. You did good luck. With PageMotor, you get dropped down into like the city of the 21st century, this fabled thing in sci-fi where there's all these roads, there's flying cars, everything's connected, there's all this magical functionality, all this interconnection, like it's all just there and all happening. You just kind of express what you want, and then the plugin architecture takes care of the rest. So that is a key difference that's going to make it much easier to work with PageMotor plugins than the WordPress environment that you're familiar with. And it's going to cut down on a lot of those oddities that happen over time just from working with that. And crucially, WordPress has been making a lot of decisions, such as with the block editor, that are creating lots of chaos. And I would argue that the situation with WordPress has been spiraling out of control for many years. And so to introduce another layer that adds even more chaos was a real architectural failure on the part of WordPress. And I think it's pushed a lot of people to the point where they're like, okay, I see I got to do something else now. I can't keep going like this. So anyhow, let's go on here. Let's catching up with the comments. I want to see it in action from a prompt to live design. Okay. I could probably do that here. We'll roll with that in just a moment. Yeah. All right. I think that's a good idea. We can do that. So anyway, we're going to, here in the PageMotor admin, let me think of what would be the best way to do this. So real quick, so when I use the design skill for this project, for what I've just showed you today, I had it look at the actual website. I said, look at revenuehire.com, check out the HTML structure and recreate it for the PageMotor import, the PageMotor theme import file, turn it into that so I can load it up onto my PageMotor site and have this. So I used a URL, a live URL input. Alternatively, I could just copy and paste the HTML file that Claude, for example, would give you. That'd be one way to do it. I'm going to flip over here to my chat window. I was going to show you guys some other stuff, but let's just see if we can do this real quick. If it's reasonable, it might take forever. We'll see. So here's my Claude code. Hey, use the front end design skill. I loaded up. Man, I can't type on here. Loaded up yesterday to create a design for what are we designing for here? Okay. Practical AI show. This is a live weekly show run by Chris Pearson and Olga Pishnenko about everything that's going on in the world of AI. The show specializes in demoing work, AI-driven. So here's the deal. I'm typing this prompt, but my wife and I have a show we do every week called Practical AI. It's going to need its own website. Right now, the website lives kind of as a subsection of the PageMotor.com website. And so I've been thinking about breaking that off into its own website. And we'll just do a mock-up here today to kind of see what that might look like and to show off this design skill. And so I need to find the URL, though, that this thing's going to go to. Oh, here we go. All right. Well, I'll keep it on the prompt, but bottom line, there's a pagemotor.com/practical-AI is sort of the home for the show right now. All right, let's see. The current pseudo home page is at, well, I just copied it. The internal links on that page go to individual episode pages that are optimized for GEO, AEO discoverability. So our pages for the show are actually the most optimized content that we've been producing. They're optimized for GEO and answer engines, basically. So we want them to be cited by AIs when items pertaining to AI get asked. We want our show to be authoritative and our resources to be citable. And we've done a lot of things on these pages to make it that. I'll show you real quick. We're gonna flip over. Here it is. Here's one of the pages. And we've got like a TLDR. This is all stuff that the AIs have told us that it wants to see on pages, or that they want to see on pages. A TLDR section with some links to key items, a table of contents showing what is available, information about the show, because if an AI lands on any of these pages, it's going to be able to immediately kind of infer what the heck practical AI is and what the show is about. Got a quick what you'll gain, like what you can expect to get out of this. We've got our biggest takeaway. We always do a biggest takeaway of the week. Now we got this frequently asked questions section. AIs love this. They want to see things in question and answer format. This helps with citability. This helps them answer questions that users have. Then we've got the actual breakdown of the episode. We've got key definitions. I mean, the AI breaks all this content out into stuff that it knows it's going to want into like chunks that it likes. And so we just follow that rubric to a T with these pages. Quotable moments. Then we've got timestamps for the show in each little segment broken down into key stuff from the segment, key links associated with it, key takeaways. We basically distill the show down into the very essence of the things that the AIs want when they look at these pages. So for this website that we are now vibe coding, we want to make sure that all that stuff gets retained and honored so that it's going to be present in the final output. The new site will consist of the pseudo homepage and the internal episode pages. It will probably also have landing page for email signups. I want to make sure you grab the specific content formatting styles for the interior episode pages. Those are crucial to our GEO strategy. Cook up a design that speaks to the nature of the show. Tech with a playful overlay. Playful, excited, exploratory overlay. And we'll go from there. Now, this is a great time to talk about skills and using Claude Code. I love using Claude Code for this stuff, okay? I think it's the best way to do it. I think it's better than the like Claude.ai prompt boxes. I think you really start to level up your AI game as soon as you get out of the prompt environment, the classic prompt environment. And I love that. And I think it's a definite workflow enhancement. Your output, achieves a new level of class. One other thing I've noticed though is that kind of slow. Like the first time I ran the design conversion skill on that revenue hire site, it took 20 minutes and 37 seconds. The second time I ran it, I had my first big AI fail moment. It wiped out my working directory for all my projects. So it killed like my Claude.md file, like all my training, all my instructions for Claude Code. A couple of projects I was actively working on but hadn't put in my repository yet. Like it nuked all that stuff. Fortunately, it was able to recover it, and I actually was able to recover it like while it was crapping out. But because I figured out what was going on. But it nuked everything, and it took 47 minutes to run all that just to get it back to where we were. So that was like, I'm like, and it's an untold number of tokens to do that, like many tens of thousands. So that was really annoying. I had to deal with that yesterday. But, I got the skill working again, and it took like 11 minutes to refine it. And I think the last run was only like 7 minutes. So I'm a little concerned about the amount of time it is taking to do that. With the previous version of the design conversion skill, which again was not doing very specific stuff, like all that stuff I described was like really nuanced and really targeted, really focused on specific outcomes. When it wasn't doing that, it was significantly faster. Obviously, that's a better user experience, but what are we going for here? Are we going for a really good website output, or are we going for just like the instant gratification of having a thing in Claude and then boom, having it show up on a live website? If your website is just a one pager, that's great. I will actually have a modified design conversion skill that's designed for speed. If you just want to roll out one pagers, I'm confident now I can kind of undo some of the stuff that I put into this skill and just have a very stripped down version that is designed to deliver the output as quickly as possible. I think we can get that, a couple 2-3 minutes is what I'm targeting for that. So, the thing with AI is you can build a skill for any purpose. If you want a one pager and speed is your thing, I can deliver that. If you're like an agency and you want to deliver a design that is really well reasoned and thought out and totally integrated with everything in PageMotor, I can deliver that too. So there will be skills for every purpose eventually. For now, I'm trying to solve this very intricate problem of having it all be totally integrated. But like I said, I'm not super happy with the speed of the thing. I am sensitive to the fact that not everyone wants the level of integration that's required here, and therefore not everyone should have to sit through a 20-minute slog or whatever it is for some of these skills to run. So, we're solving all of those problems. It's not like this is the only way to do it kind of thing. If you're watching this and like, I don't know, don't worry, there's something for everybody. Now, this is not the design conversion skill that we're running right now. We are running a front-end design skill, which Claude Code, you can install in Claude Code. I installed it yesterday. It says it successfully loaded the skill. Now it's trying to figure out what the hell Practical AI Show is. And it's kind of following some of the instructions I gave because there's some styles that exist on the PageMotor website that I want to make sure it incorporates. So I'm having to do, more than nothing, more than just, hey, create a design that looks cool for this thing. So with that in place, I would expect this to take a little longer than your average design generation. Design generation usually takes less than 10 minutes, but we'll see. We'll see. So Petra says he's checking if this tool can help me build a fast multi-location local pages for a local business. So the answer is yes, of course. It's certainly going to be faster than anything else exists as far as CMSs go. Now you can roll out stuff with Claude Code and a Vercel and Supabase loadout, and you can get stuff even faster that way. The problem is when you want to make any changes at all, or if you want to make edits, or if you want to have an environment where you manage it after the fact. Like if you just want to roll it out today and you don't really intend to mess with it ever, that's a really good solution. There's also some level of, changes and editing you can do that way that's not that bad. But as soon as you get into a situation where you're handing something over to clients and they need to use it, you need a CMS. You need a CMS because they're going to be able to be onboarded with a CMS. They can't be onboarded into this highly technical AI plus Vercel plus Supabase plus, distributed server sort of thing. That's not going to work. So you kind of got to figure out, what you want. So I see people saying like, oh, this is better, that's better. The reality is it depends on the context. If you're a hardcore developer and you just want to roll stuff out at the maximum speed possible and editability, maintainability, all that stuff, not really a high level concern for you, well, then the Vercel Supabase thing is great. But as soon as you have to deal with another human or hand something off for somebody else to use, you need a CMS, and PageMotor is clearly the very best solution for that. So PageMotor is specifically for that. It's for running websites over time. It's running websites in a systematized way. Let's see. Yeah, Petrus, it sounds like you got some experience with the prompting and all that stuff. Yep, 10-page website in 8 minutes. I know exactly what you mean there. I mean, you can get, like I said, sort of like a rough draft of your output that looks pretty good and that might be suitable for your needs. And if you're okay with that you don't really need editing capabilities, it might be fine. Might be fun. Okay, this thing's still cooking. I'm using the Ghosty terminal now, by the way. I was using just the basic terminal, but I switched over to Ghosty to check that out. It is faster. Like it renders this dialogue and stuff faster. It's like less choppy. So I kind of like that. I don't like that I have to reload my config every time I start it. So far, every time I've had to restart Ghosty, I've had to reload my config. I have a config to like allow me to type M dashes and stuff like this. But whatever. That's just a minor concern. Okay, I did it. I did it. All right, how am I going to see this? Okay, users, Pearson. All right, let's see if we can pull this up. Here it is. So I'm just going to click this. We'll see if it loads. All right, are y'all seeing this now? All right, it looks very AI, and I could. Oh, all right. I'm gonna try this. All right, I like it. Whatever, good enough for now. But I want to push back on this, and here's what I want to push back on: is that wait, you guys didn't see it. You guys didn't see it. Shoot. Let me show you over here. Here it is. Now you guys can see it. So whatever. I've seen this font and stuff used on a lot of these things that these AIs cook up. It's pretty cool. Got some placeholder images and stuff. It's simple. I like that it's simple. It didn't like try to overdo this. Don't oversell the show. It's included some little things in here. We got these little dots. These are moving, a little bit of animation. I like some of the conceits that it has put in place for us. But what I don't like is like I'm starting to dislike like this is an obvious AI design tell. That little border up here. I don't know. I can just look at something now and totally tell. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if this can do a little bit of refactoring and maybe give me something that isn't quite so AI. So Petra says he's seeing a black screen. Ken, are you seeing a black screen? Ken's not even in here now. All right. Well, so Petrus, were you able to see that or not? I'll tell you what. I want to kill this, send this over here. And we're going to try that one more time. I just want to make sure you're able to see it. How about now? You seeing this design behind me? Okay, great. So here it is. It looks cool. It's simple. But there's some obvious AI tells, like this border on top of the call to action here, above never miss an episode, and the border above this latest episode box out to the right. I don't know. Those are just little tells. I tell you what, I'm not going to worry about that for now. Maybe I'll do another stream on that next time we do the design thing to kind of like make it less obvious that it was generated by AI. But for now, I'm just not going to worry about that. It's too much. All right. So back to the prompt. All right. Looks good enough for now. Let's run the PageMotor design conversion skill on it so I can check it out on my website. And it's going to come back and ask me a few questions. It should, because the design conversion skill is now kind of designed as a very simple interview process to make sure it gets the right information out of you so that when it generates output, it's going to be right on the first pass. We don't want it to have to go back through and do a bunch of refactoring and stuff. Refactoring and retooling is where you get into problems with AI. It's where you end up spending too much money. It's where you waste tokens. And in my experience, it doesn't do a great job refactoring without significant constraints, like very real hardcore constraints, like, hey, don't go outside of these boundaries. So I am always seeking now with my prompting and my processes to really try and get it right on the first pass. I feel like society sort of pushed us in a different direction over the last 20 years of saying like, oh, just put it out there and iterate. Well, in the age of AI, that becomes very costly. And you also start having compounding problems. So I think I've always been a proponent of this. You want to get it as right as you can on the first try. Don't ship now, iterate later. Let's get it right, and then we'll ship. One thing this is doing right now, and who knows how long this will take, but I'll stick around to the end, and then we'll kill the stream. But one thing the skill does now that the old one did not do is the skill will call out to the golden ratio typography calculator API and try to determine, okay, we're using these fonts. It's going to be this size. What should the content column, like how wide should a basic content column of text be? How wide should a column of text be? What fonts, like font sizes, what associated line heights should we have with those to make them the easiest to read? and what spacing value should we use throughout the design? Because again, we want to work from a system and not from a bunch of arbitrary values. Oh, 10 pixels here. Oh, 8 pixels here. 13 pixels over here. 19 pixels over here. Like those are crazy arbitrary design values that get thrown in there. And if you ever want to go audit that stuff or refactor it, you've got hundreds of places in your CSS where stuff's just thrown all over the place. With the golden ratio typography system, you've only got 6 spatial values that are going to be used everywhere. They're all proportionally related, so everything's going to look harmonious if you use those things. And Ken here has interjected. He said, Claude definitely leans on a handful of common design patterns that it has been trained on. But you can completely override that by setting explicit design guidelines up front. Absolutely. So that is the next evolution of this process I'm showing you today. Right now, we're working on the design conversion skill. Eventually, we're going to have design creation skills as well that are I'm going to try and design them like boilerplate stuff so you can inject your own preferences into them and then run them that way. So you get your output, output that is, I think agencies and anyone who does design work should always seek to have like signatures, like personal signatures that make your work identifiable. And I want to build that into the design skills as well. Like I want the AIs to express what I would have expressed myself. I just want them to do it faster and be able to work in ways where they give me formats that I can then move around and play with and do things with in a lot less time. But, I want the design signatures to continue to exist. Yeah, I like that, Ken. I mean, honestly, of everyone's work I've seen so far, you've been able to achieve some brand specific looking outcomes, especially with the EP plugin suite admin pages and stuff. I love that. I love this that basic style that you achieved there. I I've been thinking about this. I'm like, do I need to like construct some design elements and show it some things and be like, okay, these are some of my signature items. If you encounter this, do this like that. Um, it uses cards in pretty much every design, something that is a variant of card type output. And there's like 3 or 4 different base styles of cards that I like that I'd probably want to use. And it's like, do I need to, doing my own design work, do I need to design a suite of skills to define that stuff? The answer is probably yeah. But that's an interesting question. And all these avenues with skills are very interesting. You consider them, you start to think, well, okay, I see how I can, if I put this documentation out there with these examples, I'm going to be able to sort of get this class of results. It's really cool. The future is really all about building skills and creating the examples and the documentation necessary to pull those things off on a consistent basis. Like that's sort of everything. That's certainly the biggest vector for discovering like new wow moments with PageMotor and getting it to do amazing things, getting AI to just kind of roll this stuff out for you in a way that's just amazing. So most of my attention is there right now. Like how can we build skills better? How can we make them more accurate? How can we make them faster? All those questions. I love that right now. So Petrus, I think the best answer to that question, he asked, do you have to give system prompts like preset ones, or does our prompt need to be clear and too detailed? There's 2 classes of prompts that I see that are super useful right now. One of which is boilerplate stuff. So like my wife just bought this marketing package that's a series of 12 different, I may be overgeneralizing, but 12 different prompts. And you go through based on your situation and you use, you run these 12 prompts. Like prompt number 3 might actually be like a mini interview. It says, okay, what's your current state? Like you've already got a product, you've already got a logo, and you've already got some pre-existing marketing materials, or are you starting this from scratch? Like it figures out where you're at, and then it attempts to make some recommendations down the line based on whatever you've told it. So that's like the stepwise preset prompt approach. And then the other one is where you are just clear and detailed up front. So I do the clear and detailed up front stuff when I'm building stuff with PageMotor because the AI doesn't really understand the system. So I have to like lay it all out there for it. To me, this is like the heaviest lifting in prompting. Like you really don't want to have to do that. So what is sort of emerging is that people use prompts with interviews. The prompt takes on an interview format. So it could even be a skill that you're running. You run the skill, and what the skill does, the skill is really trying to create a prompt. In the end, that's what it wants to do. But to get to that, it's going to interview you and ask you questions to figure out exactly what it needs. That's the power user way to do it right now, is the interview style prompts that lead to a super prompt that is then really useful for delivering whatever outcome you want. Yeah, so I gotta get my own little design patterns in there into some skills and really start hitting that side of the equation. So, like I said, the design conversion skill is just for converting an existing design into PageMotor into something it can use. But the other side of that equation is the generation of the design itself. What's going to be in there? You know, a good design generation tool is actually going to be an interview process. It's going to ask you about your business or whatever you're trying to build a site for. What are your goals? What do you want people to see? What assets do you have? Like, have you tied this to an email list? Do you want that? Do you have a YouTube channel? Do you want to promote that kind of thing? What kind of interactions do you want people to have when they come to your site? All that kind of stuff. So you're going to answer a series of questions like, do you have a logo? We're going to use this. Do you have an icon? Do you want an icon? All that kind of thing. And then it's sort of going to use those pieces that you give it to fill in the gaps and create a design that's, germane to exactly what you've put in. All right. So we're at 8 minutes and 18 seconds of the design generation. No, we're doing the conversion now. So we already did the design generation. We looked at it. We said, okay. Ken, did you get a look at that design? Did you get to see that before? I know you blinked off there for a moment. If not, I'll flip over real quick. Just give a reminder. Here, we'll do that. Here it is. This is our Claude generated practical AI show design. Like I would have had, I was gonna prompt it to like make it less AI seeming. The practical AI, like the icon up here, is like a home thing. It should be a microphone or something to indicate this like a podcast sort of. I kind of like the colors it used. It's very, it's tech. It's they're warm colors. It's like a warm, cool balance there that is nice. It sort of gives a lighter vibe, which I like. So, I like some of these decisions. It's cool. It put episode numbers on here in the cards. That's actually a nice touch. Kind of cool. A little bit of UI motion, which is kind of nice. And then we've got the call to action here at the bottom. Simple, looking pretty good. It actually linked up the stuff at the bottom. I haven't seen this. So Claude, I don't know if you use Claude.ai, like the prompt interface, if it'll do this very effectively. But here it has linked to YouTube. Did not do the right YouTube address. It tried to intuit what it should be. It's not correct. But it did link to PageMotor.com, which is cool. I don't know why it chose to do that. I guess it knows that PageMotor sponsors the Practical AI show or something like this. Get episode recaps. We'll see what that does. Oh, wow. It had a, wait a minute. What even happened there? What the heck? Whoa, what is going on here? So I guess it's mimicking internal pages, but it's doing it in a JavaScript format because it's not changing the URL. So like you guys can't see my URL bar, but it didn't change. I was expecting it to change when I didn't think the links are going to work. Okay, this is actually slightly better now. It's got this landing page like for the sign up form. It's kind of actually legit. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to explore that more. Maybe we'll see what it cooks up for us. Maybe we'll be able to do that. Okay, it's done. It's done. Sweet. Okay. All right, we're gonna check it out. I'm gonna go over here. We're gonna share this tab. We're gonna go set up a different theme. What are we gonna set up? We'll set up blank slate. And I want to look at this. I don't actually know what's running here. So it's running my previous PageMotor design. So we're just going to go into theme settings and I'll upload a new file and we'll just change the theme. It'll create a backup, whatever. I'll create one now just to show this off. PageMotor has data backups for all your themes, for all design stuff. So you can just create a backup at any point you want, and then you can try something new in the future. Like I'm about to import a completely different design. Let's say I don't like it. Let's say something goes wrong. I'll be able to come back here and restore the backup, and then all will be fixed. So I won't have to worry about any problems. I can return to previous states if I like to compare. Like, do I like this? Do I like that? Really handy tool. It's just a cool thing that PageMotor can do that is not commonly seen in other software. So let's see what we got here. It's the practical AI design. Well, I should have read the instructions. It's practical AI theme.txt. Oh, there it is. All right. I don't like to read instructions. All right, we're going to load it up. We'll see how it did. Maybe it cooked. Maybe it didn't cook. We're about to find out. All right, that's done. Let's check the site. I'm going to share this tab. We're going to hold shift, click refresh. That's not it. This is it. It clearly had some problems. Interesting, though. That looks nothing like the other one did. Oh, but it doesn't have the fonts. It doesn't have the fonts. All right, let's see. So again, I didn't read the dang instructions. So maybe if I follow some instructions, we'll get some different results. I see that there's going to be some problems, and I have some suspicions about what went wrong. So it says design options to set after import. So we've imported the thing. We've got a result, but now we have to do some stuff. So it says I must set the primary font should be source serif 4, and the secondary font should be sign. I bet I don't have either of those. This will actually be a good thing to show off too. So source serif 4. Let's see if we have that. Whoops. Source serif 4. Oh, we do have that. Wow. And then sign, SYNE. Odds of that are about 0. Okay. We'll kill that. And what else did it say to set? Strongly recommended. Primary font size 17, content width 720, total width 1280. All right. 720, 1280. And primary size 17. All right, gang, we can go with that. And now let's see about the other information that it asked me to set. So we're still looking at that design. I apologize. Let me flip this over. I'm in the design options now. That's where I've been setting these things, and it's telling me. And I'm looking at the Claude Code window. After it generated the file, it actually tells me some key decisions it made. It tells me what it did. I created this file. Here you go. It says it did some stuff to accommodate the design options. It tells me that it's supposed to have a dark theme, dark mode. We don't have that now because the design options are different. But now it's telling me, so after you import, set these design options, set the fonts, strongly recommended, set the font size, content width, optional, set your colors. We're going to set the colors. So backgrounds 060A14. So we're going to set that. That's going to help with the dark mode. Background 2, 131B2E. 131B2E. I don't think that's going to look much different. That's totally pointless to me, but okay, we'll do it. Color 1 is this. Color 2 is that. Color 2 is odd in PageMotor right now. I'm going to change this. It is a separate type of input, so you can use what do you call it? Transparency or opacity. So I'll have to figure out another way to do that in the future. These are old kind of technology there, but still cool. All right, and so there's our link color, and it has not advised us to do anything else. So that's all it asked me to do. So we're just going to roll with that. We're going to save it. Now we're going to go look at design. We're going to share it. We're going to hold shift, click refresh, see what we got. Okay, we're getting closer to the truth. Now, it has not designed the header the right way at all, clearly. Not 100% this thing, but I'm sure there's a very simple reason why. The styles didn't load right. Yeah, it probably just needs a width applied to it. I mean, let's see. Width 1280 pix. Let's see if that would have solved it. That didn't solve it. All right. It doesn't matter right now. What matters is I want to show you how we can get that sign font. So we were able to set everything it told me except for the font, okay? So I'm going to use, I'm going to go back to the PageMotor admin, and I know I need to add that font sign, SYNE. I'm just going to check that that's exactly how it's spelled. Yeah, SYNE. It's a Google font. So I need to add that font to my environment. And I discussed earlier how adding Google fonts can kind of be a pain in the butt. And so what I want to do, because this one's not included in PageMotor by default, what I need to do is create a plugin to add it. Now, plugins, you might not think of like a plugin to add a Google font. That seems like overkill, possibly, if you have a WordPress mindset. Plugins in PageMotor are how you do anything with PageMotor. If you want to add functionality, if you want to add like the tiniest little thing, like just a tweak to the site, plugin. If you want to integrate existing components, like if you want to add code to the website, like with WordPress, you would have formerly used like a functions file somewhere on the server to do this, which if you think about it, it's kind of awkward. Like, okay, I got this random file and I got to somehow have it connect to the whole system. That's awkward. That's weird. We don't think of it that way because we're used to it, but it's weird once you start to kind of see how a real system works. So with PageMotor, a plugin could serve that purpose. It could be the glue that integrates various parts that were formerly disparate. It can do anything with PageMotor. So a plugin is a connection point for additional code on the platform. Probably the simplest way to think about it. So we want to add a Google font. So now we're going to say we're going to use Architect AI, which is an AI equipped on the back end of PageMotor here. And we're going to say create a plugin. It has simple capabilities for now, but it can do this. Create a plugin to add the Google font called Sign. That's literally my prompt. Create a plugin to add the Google font called Sign. And I'm going to hit OK. And we'll see if this actually works. I haven't tested the AI since rolling out the PageMotor 0.7b update. Oh, but it created it. We're going to go to Manage Plugins. Here's Sign font right there. We're going to save plugins, plugin saved. Now we're going to go back to the design options. And I'm going fast, but this stuff's fast. It's good to be fast. We're going to go to our secondary font like it told me to, and we're going to select Sign, SYNE. Oh, look, there it is. It worked. And I'm going to hit save. And now we're going to go look at the design. Yeah, we got the font. There it is. Those G's are so weird on that font. Like they're cut off. So strange to me. So anyway, it did that. Now, in the original design that it created, which I will share, the font's a lot bigger. The font's a lot bigger. The GRT, golden ratio typography styles, the rubric that it has for applying them right now, it's only got 6 font sizes to choose from. It's chosen the largest size. The largest is not big enough in this case. I think it's chosen the largest. Let's find out. I'm instead of me just talking, let's make sure. So yeah, it's F1, the largest font size. And let's see what that is exactly. This thing is being really slow. 45 pixels, which is inadequate here. Let's see. On the other one, hopefully it's not lagging slow for you guys. I apologize if it is. What is it actually? So it's using a clamp function. So it's four rims, 4 REMs big. That's how, so the AIs, when they spit out designs, they use modern web conventions to do some of this stuff. But like I said, it results in a lot of arbitrary value selection throughout the design. I don't love that. So I'm still working on a way to get, like I told it, I said, there's going to be situations with headlines where the have available to you are not adequate. In those cases, you can make adaptations using the golden ratio. I've given it, a simple method to do that. It did not recognize this as a scenario where that might be desirable, or it might help mimic the final outcome, or better, have a one-to-one correspondence between input and output. And so that's something I'm wrestling with right now, because I know that users who do this are going to want to have the end result be what the input was. And so I'm really trying to walk a fine line there between using the GRT system, but honoring the original input. So it's kind of tough. All right. So Ken says, yeah, I was thinking about you, Ken. He says, this is interesting. He says he's managed to get his converter. He has a design conversion skill he's been working on to generate the full theme design options file as well. And it imports cleanly via theme data. Yes, that's true. Right. It would go ahead and fill in the values. I didn't think to do that actually. So that's clearly the next step for this, is to go ahead and precede those values. Yeah, it needs to preset those values. That way nobody has to go back through it. Yeah, that's an obvious win there. That's really good. Okay, but that doesn't solve the problem of trying to use the GRT system to to mimic these font sizes and stuff. So I've got decisions to make about that. I think what I need to champion is that the users get exactly what the users thought they were going to get. I think that'd probably be best. And I can say, oh, there's some specific circumstances where you'd want to apply GRT, and here's cases where you'd probably be better off to leave it alone. So I can define all those rules. It's just going to be a more precise thing that's going to require a bit of refinement over time. But this is now running on a PageMotor installation. It runs on a CMS. It's got design options controls. It's got ways to look at templates. You can see exactly what each template is comprised of. It's got interior page templates. Actually, we should look at that because remember it had those cool interior pages on the mock design. It was really good. So let's just look at an interior page. So here's the interior page. It actually, okay. Hold up. We need to see this. It actually did a pretty good job with this. I realize this is left aligned and that might not be best for this page. I think the input design was left aligned. It was. So this is actually quite good. So here you got your headline. We've got, headline area with an author and a date. But then it has the column of text as dictated by golden ratio typography. You don't want it to be too wide. You want it to be just right for the font size. Line heights look good. A little bit of spacing issues with paragraphs, not the end of the world. It's using callouts, which is beautiful. So it's got some of those content formatting features we said we wanted out of the box. Really, really nice. This is better than zero. It's certainly better than the revenue hire one I showed you at the beginning of the stream. We've got this looks like an alert. I actually check that. The first one I think were notes. Really cool. Notes and alerts work. It's got a table here. It's actually done an okay job with that. Let's see. We got some pre-formatted code. There's some issues with this. It renders the code tag. That's other stuff I got to figure out. Looks pretty good. Honestly, looks pretty good. So I'm real happy about that. That's a big win from the new design conversion skill tool. It's more complete in terms of what we want from an actual website. I'm sure we have some pages explaining some stuff. We'd like those pages to look nice and sort of honor the ethos of the original design that's kind of conveyed mostly on the homepage. So that is definitely a victory. Now, I don't know. It's kind of impossible for me to guess at what it might be newsletter that we showed, that newsletter sign up, but let's go look in the theme settings at the element options and see what it gave on here. Background effects, that's on the homepage. CTA content, episodes content. Let's take a look at that. So that's the recent episodes cards that had the cool episode numbers. Footer copy, footer links, hero card, here, host content. What's that? Oh, that's for the host of the show. So I don't think it made any provisions for the interior page content. But again, that's something I'll have to explore with these conversion skills. Okay, you made me some extra assets. Now, how can we roll those in as well? Real quick, I want to wrap up the stream. I want to talk about a future consideration that really matters here, especially for anyone doing agency work or delivering stuff for clients. Okay, you used a design skill to create a design. You used a design conversion skill to create, create or to turn it into something that's useful in PageMotor. Great. But now you've delivered it to the client and they have this for a while. They come back to you and they say, well, I'd like a landing page. What do you do? Ideally, your workflow is you use AI to generate a landing page, but you want it to use the existing design stuff to do that. And you're going to want to fold that result into this website. How are we going to do this? Well, that's the question for the design update skill or the design augmentation skill, which I'll be building next, which actually might be a derivative of this current skill. So when you run the design conversion skill in the future, it may ask you, it'll say, hey, are you going to be creating a new design or running, setting up an import file for a brand new design? Or are we going to be adding something to an existing design? That'll be the first intersection that it comes to, or that you come to, and you'll have to answer one of those two questions. And then it says, well, I'm augmenting an existing site, and I show it this practical AI site. Say, I want to add a newsletter landing page. It says, okay, great. So you'll point it to the website. It will look at the website, examine all the styles. It will try to use exactly what's there. Actually, if it's an existing PageMotor website, what the design conversion skill is going to ask you then, it's going to say, hey, how about you give me an export file? So you'll go into the theme, you'll go into the data manager, you create a backup, and then you can go click export here. You can select everything. It'll say select all that junk, create an export file. I'm not going to do that here. And then give me the export file. So you'll upload that export file to Claude Code or whatever to the design skill, and it will keep all that data. It will generate the new data based on the way the design conversion skill works, and it will thread that data into your existing data, and it will hand you back a file with the old stuff plus the new stuff. Then you will import it, and boom, you will have all the things you need. And again, to draw back on something I mentioned earlier that may not have been clear why this was so important, but the wall between your content, your site owns your content, and your theme owns your design. When we run these design skills to add things to a site over time, for example, this like a new landing page, when we mess with that data, we are not compromising any of the content data on the other side of the wall. This is crucial. So we can play around in that playground. And like I said, because you got the data manager here, you can back up and restore states. So you're really never at risk of losing anything. You can play around. You don't get the results you want. You revert to previous state, or you play around and you do get what you want. And then you go on and operate about your business as normal. Really, really cool, separation of responsibility here inside PageMotor that enables these agency level workflows that are going to be next level. So the future design conversion skill is going to enable you to augment existing designs and to be able to add, it'll just like, you'll say, hey, I want a new landing page. It will say, okay, I know that I need to add a new template. I will use existing container boxes such as the header and the footer, if you like, and then I'll wedge the new stuff in between there. So like the landing page would be in the middle. It would more look like this thing over here. So we keep the header. We've got this is the new thing that it would be creating for you. And it still have the footer and stuff on the bottom. So it looks like it's part of your website. It is part of your website. It's just a new template. And so it would be able to add all that and have it in there, even with the content and the copy and stuff that's there. So to be able to thread that stuff in. So not only will you be building the website the first time with the skill, well, now it's your management layer too. When the client comes back to you and says, hey, Chris, can we add this? You say, oh, gang, I got you. We're going to run the skill like this. And it will, I'll export the data. I'll feed it into the tool. It's going to say, okay, processing, adding new content to this. It gives you back the new import file. We stick it in there and boom, what you had before is now what you had before, but better. And you can do that as many times as you want. You can go to infinity there. So that is a really, really cool look at the agency workflow of the future and how we'll be using PageMotor and AI to vibe our way there. And I think this workflow already is really cool. It's powerful. It's fast. I did a whole design here in front of you guys that just needs a couple little tweaks, and I'll have to figure out the problem. But I'm going to refine the design skills, so there's not going to need to be any tweaks. You're just going to get what you wanted right there in just a few minutes. And then we'll be able to augment these things just as easily to hit very specific client specs across a wide variety of pages. I'm taken back to when I consider this. I remember I had a client in 2006. I was doing web design work at the time. And they had a pretty interesting website that needed a homepage. And it had had quite a few interior pages, but there was, I want to say 8 different sort of types of interior pages that I also had to go in and design with the same level of care that I would give to a homepage. Pretty much. I mean, like 80% of that effort went into these other pages as well. 100% effort on the homepage, about 80% of that effort was needed for these other pages to make them nice and part of the site. And that's a lot of work. That is a lot of work. So typically when we're talking about these design conversions, we're just talking about one page and making it look like that. That's cool. But what's really cool is, if you got 3 or 4 different important types of pages on a site, to be able to capture those as well and deliver those in one shot or just a couple shots, or, do this and then run a couple more things with these skills. It's not that hard to do. And suddenly you've got this fully featured thing that like looks really buttoned up from every angle and indeed includes all the main assets you need to have like a really good design. So that is the future with PageMotor. We're heading there very fast. This stuff, I mean, this stuff is improving every week considerably, like big jumps, especially if you go in the PageMotor forums, if you become part of the PageMotor beta, pagemotor.com/beta. If you get in the forums, you'll see somebody like Ken is in there doing amazing things, factoring and refactoring his suite of plugins, which now has like 15 plugins or more. It's amazing. But you know, the pace that's been unlocked here is unbelievable. And so I think back like when we started this stream, I was showing you the revenuehire.com website. I did that back in January, like around January 15th or something. And that feels like ancient history to me now. I mentioned last week on Practical AI that AI was messing with my perceptions of time. I think because for so long I've operated with this sense of like, well, here's about what's possible in any chunk of time. And AI has blown that apart. Now what's possible in a chunk of time that's not that much is significant. Like week to week, I don't even recognize the PageMotor core. Like the PageMotor on February 20th of this year is like a dinosaur to me now. That's not even a month. That's crazy. That's so recent. But that's how quickly things are changing. That's how quickly these skills change. I mean, this is already version 2.0 of this skill. Ken already gave me a great augmentation that I'm going to throw in after the show. And that process is just going to keep compounding and keep continuing. Like I said, soon we're going to have the design augmentation skill, which would probably be part of this design conversion skill. I'll maybe give it a more elegant name at some point. And you know, I've also got a plugin creation skill that's unbelievable. Real quick, I can't help myself. That plugin creation skill I use to build a products plugin. It's like an ecom plugin for PageMotor, okay? So it's called PageMotor Products. We're going to activate it real quick. I want to show you some interesting stuff real quick, and then I'll end the stream, I promise. So this plugin is really cool. It's connected to Stripe and PayPal. You just input all your stuff, and it'll connect that so you can accept payments. But what it really does that is neat is that you create content types and you can create a product. I've created one here. It's called PageMotor Products. I'm to sell this plugin. It's just ironic, whatever. So I go in here and I manage this. And this UI sucks. Okay, just get over that because I'm changing the way this UI works. But what we're looking at is over here on the right. Unfortunately, my head's in the way. I'm actually going to eliminate this. Hopefully, it'll fix it. Left for you guys. There we go. All right. No longer in the way. So what you have is you have a product image you can upload for a product. You choose a pricing model, one-time, monthly subscription, got all these extra stuff. But this is the really cool thing. I've got this file uploader now. So if somebody buys this product, it's like an info product, they're going to get these files. And one is the PM Products plugin, the zip file. And another one is like this is a placeholder, but it's supposed to be a skill. Think of it as like a skill you can use on AI. And so these are the two things the users are going to get. All I did was drag and drop these up here. It puts them into the UI like this. It's really cool. This is a new uploader in PageMotor 0.7b. PageMotor beta participants have this now. They can build with this if they like. It's really cool, though. I think it works amazing in the UI. Like if you saw this on a naked page, like a product that didn't have this yet, it would just be this uploader. And you can drag as many items as you want into this, and it will just keep augmenting this. So it's like a infinite queue if you want. This is my favorite thing, though, this protected content. I think this is so clever, and this is kind of what I want to show you in the show. So a product, for an info product, oftentimes you want to have some content on your website that people who bought the product can access, but nobody else can access it. You have to be logged in and a valid purchaser of this product to view this content that's restricted otherwise on your website, okay? So if you have that with this product, you'd click create a protected content type for this product, and then you give it a skill name. So I'm saying with this product, when you buy this, you're going to get access to protected content that's an AI skill. So like you're going to get, some of these AI tools to use with Claude Code or whatever to take better advantage of this product. When you do that, it will create a new content type in the admin here called AI skill. And then you can go in here and create a new one. You can give it a proper URL slug like AI skill 101. We're going to plan for the future. And you could input your, whatever. And so you'll notice too that this the editing area now has some styles it didn't before. So that's interesting too. So this is suddenly working where it wasn't before. I guess when I recompiled the style sheet, I guess it didn't maybe compile the editor style sheet the first time. I'll have to check that out. It should have done that, but now it's doing that, which is actually pretty cool. So the editor stuff did kind of work, by the way. So it's a little recap on that. But anyway, you can create your content here, this AI skill. And then after this is published, now this doesn't work end to end yet, but it will. So after you save this, any of the content that goes here, it's just going to work like with a normal URL structure. But when a non-logged in visitor attempts to see that, they're going to get some sort of message instead of seeing the content that says, "Hey, you have to have purchased the PageMotor products. You have to have purchased PageMotor products to be able to view this page." Really, really cool way to do protected content. Like formerly, there's been, like in WordPress, you'd have just stuff in pages, and then you have to go in and click an option there to say, yeah, I want to protect this, or no, I don't. Well, unfortunately, if you've got a site with hundreds or even thousands of pages, going through that and managing that over time sucks. It sucks. I mean, it's a joke. And so this is a much better way to do it. It's quarantined by content type. You know right away, AI skills are protected. You can infer, or you can go in and figure out pretty easily that they're protected by access to PageMotor products, which is now over here because I changed the UI before. But that is a super, super cool way to do it. I just think that is a clever little thing. That's something that's possible with PageMotor, is easily possible. The way the whole system works, doing that was no big deal. And just another feather in the cap for PageMotor. This is how the future is going to work. I vibe coded that products plugin, by the way. Really cool. I did that on the last live stream. It was a total, not a disaster. It was just super long-winded. But, suffice it to say, good things are happening, cool things are happening, a lot of cool stuff's coming. So it's not just the design skills. I used a plugin creation skill to make that plugin. It was able to do some very significant things with that already. So things are looking good. Things are moving fast. That's what we do here. And I'm going to cap it with that. Thanks for being here today. And I'll see you guys in the PageMotor beta forums. I love waking up every morning and seeing what new presents are in there for me. So thanks, guys. I'll see you later.